So as I was scrolling through my feed, I see this post. At first glance, I have no idea what this is. Is this like a chunk of text, right? But it's pretty easy to tell. It's kind of like a novel or like a story. It's probably those kind of posts that make you download like their dog shit yaoi fanfiction app that will like fish your data or like sell you something. And I'm like scrolling. Oh, like it goes on. Wow, it really goes on. Did they put the entire story here or what? Oh, it just keeps going. Why would you think that I would see this and be like, I'm gonna read this entire caption? Why would I ever use my time to read this thing? But then I see the comments. Someone says, NGL, this is shit, but a shit you wanna keep reading? And that was enough for me. So I'm like, let me just try reading it. And boy, was it interesting. This is a story of a girl called Beatrice who has a boyfriend called Julian. One day, Julian sees his dad with Beatrice's mom in bed or something. At the same time, Julian's mom also witnesses this scene. So Julian's mom offs herself and Julian decides to hate Beatrice from then on. And the story is just about Beatrice being bullied by everyone because Julian's kind of the popular guy, so everyone's upset for him. It was gym class at Lowell High School. That meant the boys who enjoyed tormenting Beatrice could start their usual routine. Beatrice, over here. Carry this sandbag and run laps. Don't stop until class is over. The class president pointed at a heavy military-style sandbag on the ground, his tone vicious. Beatrice walked over without a single word of protest, lifted the heavy sandbag onto her back, and inched her way toward the track. Just as she felt she might collapse from the lack of air, she glimpsed the scene unfolding in the shade near the track. Leaning against the tree, Julian remained striking and elegant, and nestled against him was his new girlfriend, Dorothy Quinn. This scene looked perfect like a painting, but it instantly sent a sharp pain through Beatrice's heart. Beatrice and Julian had grown up together. At Lowell High School, he was the golden boy, the impossible crush of every girl. But all his attention was on Beatrice. He made sure she had warm milk every morning and stayed up late to help her with her notes. Whenever menstrual cramps left her drenched in sweat, he would awkwardly rub her belly, his ears turning pink as he reminded her to avoid ice and cold drinks. They made plans to go to the same college and even had chosen names for their kids. The joyful days ended abruptly that afternoon. Julian's father and Beatrice's mother were caught in bed. Julian's mother couldn't take it and ended her life. His father then chose to elope with Beatrice's mother. Overnight, Julian lost everything. With no other outlet for his rage, he turned all his hatred towards Beatrice. The moment the bell sounded, the last of her energy vanished. She crawled into the shadow of the basketball hoop, desperate to catch her breath. Dorothy, however, approached, smiling. She tipped her wrist, pouring the entire bottle of icy water straight over Beatrice's head. Feel awful? Good. Blame your shameless mom. She's the one who messed everything up. If it wasn't for her, Jules wouldn't have lost both his parents. Beatrice closed her eyes, sweat and water running down her face. She had no energy to argue or fight back. At that moment, a loud metallic groan rang out. The massive basketball structure beside them wobbled violently, then toppled over without warning. At the same time, someone sprinted toward them from the side. It was Julian. Without hesitation, he lunged for Dorothy, pulled her tightly into his arms, and surged forward, carrying them out of danger. At that very moment, the heavy framework slammed down. Metal bars struck Beatrice's legs and side with brutal force. A sickening crack sounded. Her bone was fractured. Blinding pain seized her. Yet through the haze, she saw it clearly. Julian stood a safe distance away, holding a shaken Dorothy, just watching her. His eyes dropped to her mangled legs for a fleeting moment. Something unreadable flickered in them, but was instantly smothered by a deeper hatred. Then he took Dorothy's hand, turned, and walked away without a backward glance. The familiar ache in her chest twisted deeper, a pain so intense that she struggled to breathe. He wouldn't even speak to her now, not even when she was lying there, broken and bleeding. Was it really over between them? Beatrice woke up in a hospital room, the antiseptic smell stinging her nose. "You're awake," said the nurse. "Please contact your parents when you can." Beatrice glanced around, confused. What's wrong with me? A doctor approached, looking solemn. "Beatrice, we've received your test results. You have stomach cancer. It's in an advanced stage. We have to get in touch with your family right away to talk about your treatment plan. Beatrice froze completely, her mind going blank. So the rapid weight loss, pale complexion, occasional nausea and retching, even the faint traces of blood she secretly spat up these days. It wasn't from the heavy academic pressure, nor from being bullied too badly. It was because of cancer. Strangely enough, she didn't feel the earth-shattering fear. Instead, a numb sorrow welled up inside her. She looked at the doctor, her voice light as she asked, "Doctor, if I don't get this treatment, how long do I have left?" The doctor frowned, looking at her disapprovingly. "You're still so young. How can you refuse treatment? With active treatment, please tell me how long." The doctor sighed, finally giving in, answering, "At most 1 month." 1 month. Beatrice's heart skipped a painful beat. The college entrance exam was in 1 month. Once, she and Julian had stood side by side on the school rooftop, pointing at the most brilliant sunset in the sky and making a promise. They would walk into the exam room together, get into the university of their dreams together, and step into the future they had imagined countless times. But now, at the age of 18, she had been handed a death sentence. Her life would stop forever this summer. She wouldn't even get to take the college entrance exam. What expression would Julian have if he found out? Would he feel a little sad? Or no, he would definitely be happy. After all, he hated her so much. He hated her because her mom ruined his family. Hated her for taking all the good things he had once had. If she died, he would likely be the happiest person in the world. And that was fine. "I won't get treatment," Beatrice suddenly said, surprisingly calm. The doctor and the nurse hurried to stop her. "Hey, how can you not get any treatment? At least discuss it with your family first." "I don't have a family." Beatrice gently pushed their hands away and limped away stubbornly. Her only mother had abandoned her, leaving with Julian's father. She didn't have a home now. When Beatrice returned to school, it was chemistry lab class. She endured the pain in her body and rushed to the lab, only to find she had been grouped with Julian and Dorothy by chance. The boy who used to hold her hand tightly during experiments, terrified she'd get splashed by reagents, now wouldn't spare her a single glance. But Beatrice was tormented by cancer pain and unhealed injuries, and her hands trembled uncontrollably. Just as she tried to pick up the beaker filled with concentrated lye, the beaker slipped from her hand, most of it spilling into the back of Dorothy's hand next to her. "Ah!" Dorothy screamed in pain. Julian's face darkened instantly. He kicked Beatrice's chair hard. Caught off guard, Beatrice fell to the ground with her chair, her elbow hitting the cold floor heavily. She gasped in pain. "Beatrice, how dare you?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. My hand was shaking." Beatrice hurried to explain, enduring the pain. "It hurts, Julian, it hurts so much," Dorothy cried delicately. "Hold on, it'll be okay soon. Don't be afraid." After quickly finishing the first aid, Julian scooped up the sobbing Dorothy. Then, without glancing at Beatrice on the ground, he strolled out, heading to the infirmary. Beatrice got up quietly and brushed the dust off her clothes. After turning in her lab report, she felt a strong metallic taste surging in her throat and hurried to the restroom. Just as she feared, she threw up a lot of blood again. As she moved to leave, the stall door suddenly clicked shut from the outside. Then a bucket of ice-cold, filthy water crashed down from above, drenching her completely. The shrill, mean insults of several girls came from outside the door. "Your mom shamelessly stole Julian's dad and destroyed his family. And now you're trying to hurt Dorothy too? Why don't you just die? You're nothing but a waste of space. Stay in there and think about what you've done." Beatrice banged hard on the stall door. "Let me out! Open up!" Only the fading sound of mocking laughter answered her desperate pounding and shouts. In the end, she managed to force the lock open, using a little trick she picked up from Julian a long time ago. By the time she returned to the classroom, goes back to the classroom. By the time she returned to the classroom, soaked and disheveled, the class had been in session for 20 minutes. The teacher giving a lecture saw her state and exploded. "Beatrice, what's wrong with you? Why are you so late? And what happened to you?" "I was locked in the restroom." "Locked in? Who would lock you in for no reason? That's the worst excuse I've ever heard." The teacher didn't believe her at all, pointing angrily toward the door. "If you don't want to be in class, get out! Go stand in the hallway for 2 full hours before you come back in." Beatrice pressed her lips together tightly. Arguing was pointless. Silently, she walked to the corridor to serve her punishment. I don't understand why Beatrice is still in School though. If I had 1 month to live, I would literally be dropping out of school, leaving school, just going anywhere else other than school, okay? Not only that, but she's also like serving all her punishments so diligently, like she's listening to the teacher when the teacher tells her to stand outside. Also, guys, have you ever wondered what would happen if like you're in class and then you just randomly walked up to the teacher and like slapped the teacher and like walked out? I mean, I'm not for violence, but I'm just saying like you know, it's kind of like an invasive thought, you know. Someone like Beatrice, she can choose to do so many things in like that last 1 month, and yet she chooses to get bullied. When the bell rang, students poured out of their classrooms. They spotted Beatrice, drenched and pale, standing rigidly against the wall. Huh? Why does she look like that? Who knows? Probably trying to seduce someone just like her mom. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Those sharp words reached Beatrice's ears. She couldn't stand them humiliating her like this, let alone insulting her mother, who had long been missing. But what could she do? There was no defense. She bit down hard on her lip until the metallic taste of blood filled her mouth again, forcing herself to endure it all. Just when she felt like she would drown in those stares and whispers, Julian's cool, familiar voice suddenly rang out. What are you doing standing there for? Come here. Beatrice looked up sharply. She saw Julian standing at the stairwell not far away. The sunlight fell on him, outlining his sharp, handsome features. His expression was still cold, but his tone didn't seem as icy as usual. For a moment, Beatrice's mind went blank. She was reminded of the old days from long ago when he had stood there just like this in the stairwell, holding out her favorite strawberry milk, his eyes helpless and fond as he said, What are you doing standing there like an idiot? Come here. As if bewitched, Beatrice dragged her aching body toward him, step by step. She stopped in front of him, looked up into his deep eyes. A pathetic, fragile sliver of hope flickered in her chest. Why did you throw lye on Dory's hand? Beatrice's heart sank instantly. This was still about Dorothy. I didn't do it on purpose, she explained instinctively. I was feeling sick. Before she could finish the word sick, Julian's expression suddenly turned grim and terrifying. He reached out and suddenly shoved her hard. Beatrice hadn't seen it coming at all. She lost her balance instantly and screamed as she tumbled down the long flight of stairs. In the end, she crashed hard onto the ground floor, lying motionless there, in so much pain that she could barely breathe. This belief warred with the hurt as she looked up the staircase. Julian descended slowly, each step measured. He stopped before her, crouching down halfway. His eyes were dark and cold. Beatrice, your mother got mine killed. His voice was quiet, but every word cut, tearing at her already shattered heart. Now you're trying to hurt my girlfriend. You two are cursed to ruin me, aren't you? Are you here to make me pay for something? You won't be satisfied until you've destroyed me completely, will you? Beatrice was in too much pain to speak. Tears mingled with the blood trickling down from her forehead, blurring her vision. For a moment, she even thought that it would be better to die right here in his hands. Julian looked at her as she lay dying, covered in blood. Damn, this guy really thinks he's the villain, bruh. Pushing Beatrice off the stairs is like a little bit much, no? I mean, I get that he hates her, whatever, he ignores her, but this is kind of like a assault. This is like an assault. This is literally like almost like a murder. I understand blaming someone just because their parents kind of got with your parents. To assault them is kind of like a next level, no? It's kind of like, why would you do that? Especially since like Julian cared so much about Beatrice before. Julian looked at her as she lay dying, covered in blood. His eyes flickered briefly, a flash of complicated pity crossing his gaze, but it was swiftly swallowed by a deeper hatred. He pulled out his phone and called the school infirmary to come get her. Beatrice, remember what I said today. Don't you dare lay a finger on Dory again. If you hate me for this revenge, go right ahead and tell the principal. I don't care if I can't take the SAT. After all, you already destroyed my family completely. Beatrice lay on the cold floor, watching him walk away from her life again without a second thought. She let out a soft laugh, even as tears streamed down her face harder than before. She mused. Julian, do you even know the one who won't be able to take the SAT is me? The paramedics arrived soon and carried the severely injured, unconscious Beatrice to the infirmary with a stretcher. "Girl, what happened? Did someone bully you?" a doctor asked while hurriedly dressing her wounds. With her eyes closed, she just shook her head slightly and answered in a barely audible voice. "Accident. I fell." After the doctor plastered her injured leg and dressed her scrapes, Beatrice insisted on returning to the classroom. Damn, how many times has she come back to the classroom from almost dying? Her time was limited. Each second counted. She just wanted to spend the rest of her life quietly in the classroom, which held too many memories of Julian and her. In the following days, like a transparent person, Beatrice sat in the corner of the classroom, watching the boy, who used to only have eyes for her, meticulously taking care of another girl. He patiently tutored Dorothy, got warm water for her, asked softly when she frowned, and took off his jacket and draped it around her shoulders when she was cold. Each scene unfolded before Beatrice like a blunt blade, cutting right through her heart. Despite the unbearable pain in her heart, like a masochist, she didn't look away. Wait, hold on, now that I think of it, there are probably a lot of people with that dated someone in school, right? What happens when you break up with your partner in school and then your partner goes to date someone else in the same class? So it's kind of like a NTR within the classroom, is it not? So it would be like this. Now that I think of it, it might not be that uncommon, no? If you experience this NTR in the class, tell me your experience in the comments and whether you can relate to Beatrice. In the evening, there was a sudden blackout. The classroom was in utter darkness. In the darkness, under the dim light streaming in through the window, Beatrice saw Julian turn around and kiss Dorothy on the lips. She felt her heart freeze instantly. She even forgot how to breathe. Tears flooded her face. She had to stifle her sobs. The blackout used to be their most expected moment. Julian would hold her hand immediately and whisper in her ear, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Then, he would kiss her lips, breathing rapidly. If you did this kind of shit back in my high school, you're gonna get bullied relentlessly. Also, you're not only gonna get bullied, my high school literally expel you for kissing someone. A state uniform examination arrived several days later. It was the last big mock test before the SAT. Knowing that she wouldn't be able to take the real SAT, Beatrice saw this exam as her last and only SAT and did her best. The exam was happening solemnly when something happened. The proctor suddenly trotted off the dice and gazed sharply at someone in the back. Dorothy panically tried to hide something. "What's that in your hand?" asked the proctor. Dorothy was horrified as the proctor approached. To avoid punishment, she threw the note into the aisle. It dropped at Beatrice's feet. "Sir, it's Beatrice. She was cheating. The note was hers." Dumbfounded, Beatrice gaped at Dorothy in disbelief. "No, it wasn't me. Sir, I didn't cheat. The note was hers." To find out the truth, the proctor looked at Julian. "Julian, your seat is behind theirs. You must have seen something. Who was the cheater?" Does the proctor have a 3-second memory or what? Because in order to walk towards Dorothy, the proctor must have noticed that Dorothy was the one who was cheating, no? I don't understand the logic for this writing, but I guess maybe Beatrice and Dorothy look similar? It could be that way, because maybe Julian has a similar type or something. Silently, he glanced back and forth between Beatrice and Dorothy. Dorothy looked quietly at him with tearful, pleading eyes. The several seconds of silence felt like a century. At last, Julian pointed at Beatrice with his slender fingers. She had always known that he loathed and hated her, but how could he blatantly lie on such an occasion? How could he frame her without hesitation to cover up for Dorothy? The unbearable pain was so excruciating that she couldn't feel it anymore. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she peered at his nonchalant, attractive face, too sad to defend herself. In the end, all of Beatrice's grades were invalidated, and a notice of criticism was announced on campus radio. Several days later, the grand coming-of-age ceremony took place. In the clamor, Dorothy's clear voice stood out. She yelped out the window, "Julian, we'll always be together." He affectionately stroked her hair and smiled. "Okay, always." Once, she and Julian had stood together like this, picturing their adulthood, their college lives, their marriage, and their children. Now, this was all gone, vanishing into thin air. Silently, she turned around and left the classroom in the uproar. When she reached the staircase, Dorothy's voice came from behind. "Beatrice!" Beatrice stopped in her tracks and turned around. Dorothy walked over with a triumphant smile. "Why didn't you yell? Feeling hopeless?" Beatrice didn't want to talk to her. Before she could turn around, Dorothy continued. Don't think you could attract Julian's attention by acting differently. Just so you know, you owe Julian his mom's life. He'll never love you again, no matter how much you mean to him before. Besides, he only loves me now." Exhausted, Beatrice closed her eyes and said in a low voice, "I know. Rest assured, I'll be out of his life. Forever." With that, she turned to leave. But Dorothy shouted, "Stop there!" She attempted to drag Beatrice when she slipped and fell down the stairs, screaming. She landed in the corner. Her forehead was bleeding. "Dory!" Julian hastened over like a whirlwind, picked up the unconscious Dorothy, and glared at Beatrice. "Beatrice, what did you do to her this time?" "Not me. She..." "Enough. If anything happens to Dory, I won't spare you." Just then, someone called out, "Julian, Dorothy's bleeding. Take her to the hospital immediately." Julian said to his friend, "Take Beatrice. She has the same blood type as Dory." Just like that, Beatrice was taken to the hospital half willingly, half forced. What is half willingly? She actually wants to give blood to Dory. As Julian had figured, Dory was severely injured and needed a blood transfusion. The blood bank was running low on her rare blood type. Can cancer patients donate blood? Would cancer spread through blood, or does that not happen? "Take her blood," he said to the doctor without hesitation, pointing at Beatrice. Holding Beatrice's formal examination report, the nurse said with a frown, "No, she can't donate blood." Julian retorted, "Why?" Pasty-faced, Beatrice didn't want him to know the truth. She explained, "The nurse means I'm too frail with anemia, but it's okay. I can do it." "Of course, you must. If you hadn't pushed Dory, this wouldn't have happened." Without another word, Beatrice lay on the bed. The cold needle pierced into her blood vessel and drew her blood. Really, is it that easy for someone to just say, the cancer patient needs to donate her blood and the doctor would just do it? When it was done, Beatrice could barely maintain her balance. She could only support herself by pressing her hand against the wall and left the hospital alone. Before, every time she caught a cold or had a fever, he'd be flustered and stay by her side day and night. Now, she was dying, yet he didn't know and was only concerned about another girl. Maybe this was for the best. As the SAT approached, the school gave students a study break, allowing them to go home and prepare on their own. Beatrice had just arrived home when the doorbell rang urgently. When she opened the door, she saw Julian stand outside with a gloomy expression, and Dorothy, who looked pitiful and had red, swollen eyes. "Beatrice, did you steal and hide Dorothy's SAT admission ticket?" "I didn't." "Who else could it be besides you?" Ignoring Beatrice's attempts to stop him, he barged into her house, stormed into her room, and began rummaging through her belongings. In the end, he actually pulled out Dorothy's SAT admission ticket, torn into pieces, from a hidden compartment in Beatrice's backpack. "Beatrice, it really was you." Beatrice caught a fleeting look of triumph in Dorothy's eyes and instantly understood. This was yet another time that Dorothy had framed her. She also knew that no matter how she explained, he would never believe her, so she chose to remain silent. Seeing her silent as admission, Julian grew even angrier and immediately took out his phone to call the police. "Hello? Is this 911? Someone here has deliberately destroyed another person's important document, intending to sabotage the SAT." Beatrice was taken away. The police were not overly harsh and mainly gave her a warning, but due to the serious nature of the incident, she was still detained for a few days. In the dark, cold detention center, every day felt like a year for Beatrice. The pain from her cancer tormented her day and night. She kept vomiting blood, but there was no pain medication. She could only curl up in a corner, groaning in agony. It wasn't until a day before the SAT that she was finally released. The police advised her to adjust her state and do her best on the exam the next day, but she knew she wouldn't be able to take it. Her life was already at its end, and her body was so weak she could barely stand. On the day of the SAT, she swallowed a handful of painkillers, barely managed to support herself, sat in a wheelchair, and went to the test center alone. She just wanted to see the test center and that person one last time. Just to say a final goodbye. He was wearing a clean white shirt, standing tall and straight, especially noticeable in the crowd. Beatrice's heart trembled slightly, and she instinctively wanted to call out to him. However, before she could say anything, she saw Dorothy skipping over from a distance, her smile bright as she affectionately took his arm. The smile on Beatrice's face froze instantly, and the numb pain in her chest stabbed sharply once again. Perhaps it's better not to say goodbye. After all, from now on, the one to accompany him through the rest of his life would no longer be her. She watched their backs as they walked into the exam hall, side by side. So well matched, so full of hope. Silently, she willed herself away from the bustling test center, heading toward the cold river on the other side of the city. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. Julian was no longer that inexperienced teenager. He had become a rising star in the business world, young, handsome, and wealthy, the darling of countless financial magazines and talk shows. At this moment, he was sitting under the spotlight, being interviewed on a popular financial program. As the interview neared its end, the beautiful reporter threw out a slightly gossipy question. Mr. Lavelle, you're so young and accomplished. Your romantic history must be just as impressive. Could you tell us about your unforgettable first love? The studio fell quiet, and everyone looked at him. After a long time, he finally raised his eyes slowly, looking into the camera with a deep and complicated gaze, and spoke in a low voice. I don't have an unforgettable first love. Only someone I hate to the core. The interview ended in a subtle atmosphere. As soon as he returned backstage, his assistant came up to report his schedule. Mr. Lavelle, there's a reunion with your high school classmates tonight. What do you think? Didn't I say to decline all such gatherings? I'm sorry, Mr. Lavelle. I was so busy I forgot. I'll call and cancel it right away. Just as the assistant was about to make the call, Julian, for some reason, suddenly changed his mind. Forget it, he said. Arrange the car. That evening, he attended the high school reunion. Julian, you finally made it. It's been years since you came to a reunion. I heard you're about to get engaged to Dorothy. What a perfect match. Congratulations. Julian responded politely but perfunctorily, his gaze sweeping the crowd inconspicuously as if searching for someone. I want to say it's weird that Julian would expect someone that got bullied to come to a class reunion, but then again, Beatrice really loves the classroom, so if she was alive, I guess it would make sense that she would come. Every time someone entered, he would instinctively look up, but each time, it was never the face he wanted to see. As the reunion was about to end, she still hadn't come. He couldn't quite describe how he felt. Somewhat irritable, somewhat empty. In the end, he couldn't help himself and asked in a seemingly casual way. All these years, besides me, has anyone else never attended a reunion? Everyone started recalling and discussing all at once. Suddenly, a classmate seemed to remember something. Besides the always busy Julian, there's one more. Beatrice. Beatrice has never come either. Julian's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his expression calm and followed up lightly. Beatrice? What is she doing now? And why didn't she come? A look of surprise appeared on all the classmates' faces at once. Julian, you didn't know? Beatrice? She died 10 years ago. If they know that Beatrice died, then why did they say Beatrice has never come to a class reunion? Like, it would automatically mean that Beatrice can't come, no? Dad? Julian's fingers tightened abruptly around his wine glass, his knuckles turning white. The classmate who had just spoken shrank back, intimidated by the coldness in Julian's eyes. Still, he forced himself to add, It's true, Julian. A few days after the SAT, I went to the police station with our homeroom teacher for something, and happened to run into the officers handling Beatrice's case. Why would you need to go to the police station with your homeroom teacher after the SAT? I heard about it too. Another boy with glasses spoke hesitantly. They said she passed away a couple of days after the SAT. When she was found, she wasn't breathing anymore. Because they couldn't reach her family, her body stayed at a hospital for several days. In the end, the police contacted the funeral home for cremation. Her ashes, it seems no one ever came to claim them. No one even came to claim her ashes? Julian repeated, feeling as if his heart had been struck hard, the dull pain almost unbearable. Stop joking with me. She was so tough. How could she just die like that? Maybe she's just hiding somewhere on purpose, making you say this just to make me feel guilty. Despite his words, his hands were trembling uncontrollably. In the car, Dorothy chatted excitedly with him about wedding dress styles and wedding details, but Julian kept staring out the window, his eyes empty, not listening at all. He had to admit, even if he didn't believe Beatrice was dead, what his classmates said just now was like a thorn, deeply embedded in his heart. Julian, are you even listening to me? Dorothy, dissatisfied with his silence, gave him a push. Julian snapped back to reality, frowning. Stop it. I'm the one making trouble? Dorothy exploded instantly. You've been distracted ever It's hard to do her voice. You've been distracted ever since we left the party. Are you still thinking about Beatrice? It's been 10 years. Can't you forget her? I told you not to mention her again. And why can't I mention her? If it wasn't for me back then, you would have been entangled with her long ago. We've been together for 10 years. And you're still thinking about her. Do you think that's fair to me? I don't want to argue with you right now. You don't want to argue, so that's it? Today, you have to make it clear. Do you still love me or not? Are you still thinking about her? Julian suddenly slammed on his brakes, bringing the car to a stop by the roadside. He turned his head, his gaze icy as he looked at Dorothy. I'll say one last time. Stop it. Dorothy was startled by his look, but still snorted defiantly. Julian took a deep breath and opened the car door. Go home by yourself. I need some time alone. Julian! Dorothy shouted, trying to grab him, but he dodged her. Julian closed the car door and walked away without looking back. Dorothy was left alone in the car, trembling with anger yet utterly helpless. As the night deepened, Julian wandered aimlessly through the city streets. The girl he once cherished in his hands, to whom he promised a lifetime together. Had something really happened to her? He couldn't believe it, yet he couldn't deny the growing panic and guilt in his heart. He took out his phone and scrolled through his contacts, only to realize he no longer had any way to reach Beatrice. For 10 years, he had deliberately erased her from his world. But in the end, he realized she had never truly left. Beatrice was from a single-parent family, and they were neighbors. He first met her in first grade. She wore a white dress and 2 little braids, standing in the hallway, crying because a classmate had taken her paintbrush. He rushed over, snatched the paintbrush back, and handed it to her. She looked up, her eyes shining like stars, and whispered, "Thank you." His heart skipped a beat. And from then on, he was always by Beatrice's side. From elementary school to high school, they were almost inseparable. Every morning, he would wait for her downstairs 10 minutes early, his backpack filled with her favorite sweet roll and warm milk. On the way home from school, he would help her carry her heavy backpack. When it rained, he would tilt the umbrella mostly towards her, not caring if half of himself got soaked. If a boy gave her a love letter, he would snatch it away and throw it in the trash, warning the boy fiercely. If girls were jealous and talked behind her back, he would confront them and make them apologize to Beatrice. He also swore to protect Beatrice for a lifetime. Until that afternoon in high school, when he opened the door and saw his father and Beatrice's mother lying disheveled on the sofa. His mother stood nearby, her eyes empty. The next second, his mother leapt from the balcony, blood splattering onto his school uniform, and his world shattered from that moment on. Wait, how did the blood get onto his uniform? If his mom jumped and he's still in the apartment, then the mom is on the ground floor, right? So how does the blood get onto his uniform? I don't get it. Joseph King is an editor and storyteller who ensures every chapter is clear, polished, and engaging for readers. Well, I'm not sure about the polished part, but this sure is engaging, so good job, Joseph. He knew that Beatrice was a victim too. Her mother had eloped with his father, leaving her homeless as well. But he couldn't accept this reality. His mother's death was like a knife plunged into his heart, and he needed an outlet for his pain. And Beatrice became the most suitable person for that. Only by bullying her, only by punishing her, could he ease his suffering, even if just a little. And in doing so, his mother's death finally had someone to blame. It was at that time that Dorothy appeared. She approached him on her own, saying she would stay by his side. He was not unaware of Dorothy's intentions, nor did he truly love her. He just wanted to make Beatrice sad, to make her jealous, by being with Dorothy. Every time he saw the loneliness and pain in Beatrice's eyes when she watched him get close to Dorothy, a twisted sense of satisfaction would rise in his heart. After graduation, as the days went by, he grew used to Dorothy's company and was too lazy to get to know anyone new. So he just stayed with her. But only he knew that, in the quiet of midnight, he always thought of Beatrice. He remembered the way she smiled, the way her eyes reddened with grievance, but she said nothing. When he bullied her, he felt more miserable than anyone else. Why did they say this sentence though? They literally said he felt happy, no? Look! Every time he saw the loneliness and pain in Beatrice's eyes, a twisted sense of satisfaction, no? Soon, the car arrived at the entrance of Lowell High School. The door to class 33 of senior year was ajar. He gently pushed it open, the flashlight's beam sweeping across the classroom, and his heart suddenly tightened. Everything here was still preserved just as it had been back then. On the wall hung a faded SAT countdown, and the last class meeting notes were still on the blackboard. Jesus Christ, is it like a tongue twister or something? He walked towards Beatrice's old seat, which was by the window in the second to last row. When he reached the seat, he stretched out his hand, his fingertips just about to touch the desk. Suddenly, an old storage cabinet beside him creaked, then toppled toward him. Bang! The cabinet crashed heavily into his back, pinning him underneath in an instant. Gritting his teeth, he pressed his hands to the floor, trying to get up. But a memory from senior year gym class suddenly flashed through his mind. When the basketball hoop fell, he rushed to save Dorothy first, leaving Beatrice to be crushed underneath. This storage cabinet was much lighter than the basketball hoop back then. Yet, the pain now made it almost impossible for him to breathe. So how much pain must Beatrice have felt, being struck by that heavy metal frame on her legs and body? He used all his strength to push the cabinet away, struggling to stand up, the pain in his back making it impossible to straighten. He leaned on Beatrice's desk, gasping for breath, and the flashlight beam accidentally swept under the desk. There were two things hidden there, a small black and white photo frame and a yellowed envelope. He bent down to pick them up. Inside the frame was, unexpectedly, a black and white photograph. In the photo, she wore her high school uniform, her eyes as calm as a still lake. There was no name on the envelope, only 3 words. Final letter? Huh? That's 2 words, no? How is that 3? He opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. Beatrice's neat handwriting appeared before his eyes. Julian, by the time you read this letter, I should already be gone. I know my mother did something very wrong. She destroyed your family and ruined everything we had. I feel guilty every day, but I didn't dare tell you. I was afraid you hate me even more. Later, I was diagnosed with late-stage stomach cancer. The doctor said I had at most 1 month to live. I didn't dare to tell anyone, not even you. I didn't want you to think I was using my illness to gain sympathy. I know you hate me, so I tried my best to avoid you, not to make you angry. Watching you with Dorothy hurt me, but I just wanted you to be happy. I left my photo and this letter here, not for any particular reason. I just wanted to leave some proof that I once existed. Julian, I don't blame you. If my death can make you feel a little better, that's enough. Some parts of the handwriting on the letter were blurred by water, smudging the strokes. Julian held the letter, his hands trembling uncontrollably, his heart gripped tightly by an invisible hand, the pain nearly suffocating him. Impossible! This can't be happening, he screamed, crumpling the letter into a ball, then suddenly flattening it out, reading it over and over as if that could change the words written on it. But every word was like a knife, stabbing into his heart. He simply couldn't believe that Beatrice really had cancer, that she was truly gone. He only wanted to make her unhappy, to let her taste the pain he once felt, but he never wanted her to die. He suddenly stood up, stumbling as he ran out of the classroom. The pain in his back and the agony in his heart intertwined, nearly causing him to collapse. All the way he drove at breakneck speed, his mind filled with images of Beatrice. Her disheveled appearance when drenched with cold water, her bloody body after being pushed down the stairs, her desperate, confessing gaze. He failed to notice the red light and crashed straight into the guardrail. The front of the car was deformed, the airbag deployed, and his forehead was bleeding from the impact. But he seemed not to feel any pain, pushing open the car door and running toward home. Back at the villa, he rushed straight toward the study. Perhaps because of the commotion, the villa door was suddenly pushed open. Dorothy hurried in, lifting her skirt, and when she saw Julian sitting on the floor, covered in injuries, her face instantly darkened. Julian, what are you doing? You didn't answer your phone, and you come home looking like this? Dorothy stepped closer, her gaze landing on the memorial photo in his hand. Why are you still holding her photo? Julian, you still can't forget Beatrice even now? She grabbed Julian's arm, snatched the memorial photo from him, and threw it on the floor. It was her mother who killed your mother back then. It was her mother who destroyed your family. Have you forgotten all of that? Who has been by your side all these years? Who stayed with you during your hardest times? It was me, not that Beatrice who died long ago. Julian slowly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot, his voice hoarse as if scraped by sandpaper. "I haven't forgotten, but only now do I realize how terribly wrong I was back then. Beatrice was a victim too. Her mother was gone, and she had no home either. But I poured all my hatred into her, forced her to run laps with sandbags, pushed her down the stairs, watched her get bullied and did nothing. I made her my target for venting, but I forgot she was once the person I most wanted to protect. I've been with you for 10 years, from high school until now. I've been wanting to marry you, waiting to be your wife. Now you tell me you regret it? That you miss Beatrice? So what am I to you? We're getting engaged next month. Now you say all this. Are you telling me there was never any place for me in your heart? Do you have any idea how cruel you are to me right now?" Julian looked at her tear-streaked face, his heart full of guilt, yet he couldn't utter a single word of comfort. "I'm sorry, but my mind is a mess right now. I need to think carefully about what should happen between us." "Think? Go ahead and think. I really want to see what you can come up with." She turned and walked toward the door, and when she reached the entryway, she slammed the door shut. Julian didn't go after her. He bent down to pick the memorial photo from the floor, gently brushing the dust off with his fingertip. He couldn't help but picture Beatrice lying alone in the hospital back then, facing the pain of cancer by herself, ending her life in a cold, empty room. His heart felt as if it was being pierced by countless needles, the pain making it hard to breathe. He grabbed his car keys and rushed out of the villa again. This time, the place he was heading to was the old neighborhood where Beatrice used to live. It was an old residential complex with peeling paint in the stairwells and several broken streetlights. He opened the door, and a wave of stale dust hit him in the face. Everything here was exactly the same as it had been 10 years ago. On the coffee table in the living room was the puzzle they had put together in elementary school. The cushion on the sofa was the birthday gift he had given to her back then, printed with a favorite little bear. The desk was piled high with textbooks and notes, and on the cover of a notebook, the word Julian was written in Beatrice's handwriting. He opened the notebook and found a photo tucked inside, a picture of them playing house together in elementary school. He was wearing his father's suit. She was in her mother's dress, both holding rings made of foxtail grass, their faces beaming with joy. "Bea, I'm sorry." Julian crouched in front of the desk, tears falling onto the notebook, blurring the handwriting. He remembered those early days of young love, sneaking in through the window at night, sitting by her bed, singing off-key songs to her, and she would blush and chase him out. He had liked her so much then, liked her enough to do anything for her. But why, later on, did he do so many cruel things to her? Why did he watch her get bullied, watch her suffer, and not even say a single word of concern? He walked out to the balcony, looking at the night sky outside, as if he could still see Beatrice from those days, wearing a white dress, standing on the balcony, smiling as she said to him, "Julian, look, the stars are so bright tonight." But now, the stars were still there, yet the girl who smiled at the stars would never return. Julian held Beatrice's diary in his arms and slowly slid down along the wall of her bedroom. His hands trembled as he opened the diary, turning page after page. Beatrice's handwriting, once neat and delicate, had become increasingly messy and weak. In PE class, we were told to run laps with sandbags. As I ran, my vision went black, like I could collapse at any moment. I saw Julian and Dorothy standing under the shade of a tree. He looked at me, his eyes full of hatred. I know he will never care about me again. At night, the pain kept me awake. I could only curl up under the blanket and cry. I miss Mom, but she left with Mr. Lavelle. No one cares about me anymore. Every diary entry recorded the agony Beatrice suffered from cancer. They recorded her longing for him, and also her despair. Today is the SAT. I was released from the detention center. The police officer told me to do my best on the test, but I know I can't take it anymore. I swallowed a lot of painkillers and went to the test center in a wheelchair, just wanting to see Julian one more time. I saw him. He was wearing a white shirt, looking so clean, so dazzling. Then Dorothy ran over, took his arm, and he smiled as he held her hand, saying, "Don't be nervous." They walked into the exam room together, looking so perfect, as if their future was filled with light. I have no future left. During those days in the detention center, I vomited blood many times, The pain nearly killed me. They said I tore up Dorothy's SAT admission ticket, but I didn't. He always believed her, never me. Forget it. I'm dying soon anyway. Whether I explain or not doesn't seem to matter anymore. There's no need to explain anymore. Julian repeated this sentence in a low voice, his heart feeling as if it had been struck by a heavy hammer. He remembered how Dorothy had cried, saying her SAT admission ticket had been torn, and how she had complained, "Only Beatrice would hurt me." He took out his phone, his fingers trembling so much that he dialed the wrong number several times before finally reaching his assistant. "Investigate immediately. Look into what happened 10 years ago before the SAT, when Beatrice was accused of tearing up Dorothy's SAT admission ticket. Retrieve the surveillance camera from Beatrice's house back then. Use any means necessary, but you must find the records." The assistant had never heard Julian speak in such a tone before and dared not delay, quickly responding, "Yes, Mr. Lavelle, I will get on it right away." It wasn't until evening that his assistant called. "Mr. Lavelle, we found something. There was a private surveillance camera installed at Beatrice's front door back then. Because so much time has passed, most of the footage is damaged, but we found a blurry clip from the night before the SAT." Soon, the assistant sent over the surveillance clip. In the footage, the door to Beatrice's house was tightly shut. Around 11 o'clock at night, Beatrice wheeled herself out the house, probably to buy some painkillers. A few minutes after Beatrice left, a woman in a dress appeared in the frame. She looked around to make sure no one was there, then took a thin wire from her bag and fiddled with Beatrice's lock for a moment before pushing the door open and going inside. Julian's breath stopped instantly. He zoomed in on the footage, staring fixedly at the woman's profile. Even though the image was blurry, he recognized her at a glance. It was Dorothy. So the SAT admission ticket back then was never stolen or torn by Beatrice. It was all orchestrated by Dorothy herself. And he actually believed Dorothy's words and sent Beatrice to the detention center. And during the AP exams, that cheat sheet was obviously written by Dorothy herself. Yet, when the teacher questioned them, he pointed to Beatrice without hesitation. "How could I do that? I knew perfectly well it was Dorothy who cheated, but I still claimed she was innocent." He remembered the look in Beatrice's eyes at that moment. Shock, despair, and a trace of lingering hope, all of which finally faded into numbness. Her family was ruined. She had cancer. The AP exams, it must have been her last hope of fulfilling her dream. She wanted so badly to go to college, but I couldn't even let her have that little hope. He pulled out his phone and dialed his assistant again. "Check again. Investigate all surveillance footage from Lowell High School 10 years ago, especially senior year, when Beatrice was locked in the restroom after the coming-of-age ceremony when Dorothy fell down the stairs, and all records from the day of the chemistry lab." All the surveillance footage from Lowell High School 10 years ago. That's like a crazy command. I like how vague his descriptions are too. Just that day when, Beatrice was locked in the restroom, and that day when, she was in the chemistry lab. It wasn't until late at night when his assistant sent him a message, attaching several restored surveillance clips. The second clip was at the stairwell after the coming-of-age ceremony. Dorothy walked up to Beatrice, said a few words, then suddenly reached out to grab her. Then she deliberately slipped and fell down the stairs herself. The third clip was from the surveillance at the chemistry lab entrance on the day of the experiment. In the footage, Beatrice fumbled to pick up a beaker, her wrist trembling uncontrollably. In the end, the beaker fell onto the ground, and the alkali splashed onto Dorothy's hand. Dorothy immediately screamed, and he rushed over, kicked over Beatrice's chair, and later even pushed her down the stairs. The surveillance clearly showed Beatrice tumbling down the stairs, her blood quickly staining her uniform red. And he just watched coldly, without even asking a single question. I mean, what can he ask? He's obviously the murderer, so why would he ask any question? Julian could no longer hold back and let out a cry of pain. His phone slipped from his hand, the screen shattering into pieces. He remembered the words from Beatrice's final letter. "Julian, I have atoned with my life. Now, can you forgive me?" She never had anything to atone for. The one who needed to atone was him. He was the one who destroyed everything between them with his own hands, who killed the girl who loved him most, and whom he loved most. He was the one who, at her most painful moment, not only failed to help her, but delivered the most fatal blow. The night grew deeper. Beatrice's bedroom was deathly silent, with only Julian's muffled sobs breaking the silence. Julian curled up on the floor, clutching Beatrice's diary and her memorial photo tightly in his arms. he had not moved for 3 whole days. During these 3 days, he neither ate nor drank, nor slept. "Bea, I'm sorry," he murmured. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have hated you. Shouldn't have hurt you." At that moment, the villa's door was suddenly flung open, and Dorothy strolled in quickly on her high heels. "Julian, what on earth are you doing? You haven't answered your phone or seen anyone for 3 days. Do you have any idea how worried I've been? Why are you still holding her things? Julian, snap out of it. Look at yourself. What are you doing?" Julian slowly raised his head, his eyes devoid of warmth, filled with only icy hatred as he stared at Dorothy. "I'm perfectly clear-headed." "It's good that you're clear-headed. We're getting engaged next month. You can't go on like this." "Engaged?" Julian let out a cold laugh, his smile full of mockery. "Dorothy, do you really think you can still get engaged to me?" He braced himself against the wall and slowly stood up, walking toward Dorothy step by step, each step exuding an undeniable sense of oppression. My problem with this story is that Julian still thinks that he's him. Look at him. He's still like walking slowly towards the girls and kind of like being like oppressive, still like laughing coldly, smiling with a mockery. Julian, you have BPD. You're not the villain. You just have BPD. 10 years ago, you framed Beatrice for cheating and threw the cheat sheet at her feet. You deliberately fell down the stairs and blamed Beatrice. You even snuck into Beatrice's house and hid the torn SAT admission ticket in her backpack, causing her to be taken away by the police. Brother, you are the one that called the police. Do you understand? You are the one that called the police. Did you really think I would never find out about these things? Dorothy's face turned deathly pale, her eyes filled with panic. What nonsense are you talking about? I didn't do any of that. Beatrice did all those things herself. It had nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with you? See for yourself. This is the footage of you sneaking into Beatrice's house, this is you falling down the stairs, and this is your friend locking Beatrice in the bathroom. Are you still gonna deny it? Imagine being Julian's assistant and like having him tell you to recover clips from like 1 century ago, It's like, oh, okay, sure, Julian, I'm gonna get it done. Goes to Mid-Journey, generate a surveillance clip of girl in white dress using this photo as reference. Dorothy stared at herself in the surveillance footage, her body trembling uncontrollably. I did it for you. I saw Beatrice bullying you, saw her ruin your family, so I helped you. Everything I did was because I love you. You slandered her, framed her, and pushed her into hell. And you call that loving me? Dorothy, let me tell you, I don't need your filthy kind of love. Did you know that Beatrice had late-stage stomach cancer, trembled because of the pain, and she vomited so much blood after blood draws, she suffered so much in the detention center, and you never cared at the time? Well, whose fault was that? That's 70% your fault, Julian. What right do you have to judge me? You are the most hypocritical one. You couldn't accept your father's affair, couldn't face the truth about your mother's suicide, so you took out all your anger on Beatrice. Her parents were gone. No one was there to protect her, so you bullied her without restraint. When she was dying, do you have any idea how miserable her life was? Oh wow, she just rephrased what Julian said and now they're kind of saying the same thing to each other. You are right. Julian's body suddenly shuddered as if struck by lightning. He let go of Dorothy's hand and staggered back a step. Everyone knew how tragically Beatrice died. Except me. I was the only one who ignored her, hated her, and kept hurting her. I was wrong, but don't think you can get away with. Suddenly, Julian lunged forward and gripped Dorothy's neck tightly, his eyes fierce as if he wanted to tear her apart. If you hadn't framed her, she wouldn't have been detained, wouldn't have suffered so much, you vicious woman. Brother, you're the one that called the cops? I'm just gonna say I can't hate Dorothy that much because she literally threw her own body down the stairs just to make Julian side with her over Beatrice. This girl is so committed to bullying Beatrice that she's willing to sacrifice her life. That takes some level of dedication, Dorothy was being choked so hard she couldn't breathe, her face turning bright red as she desperately slapped Julian's arms. Tears mixed with terror streamed down her face. Julian, I was wrong. Please let me go. I'm begging you. Her breathing grew weaker and weaker, her gaze beginning to blur. Julian saw her on the verge of death and suddenly came to his senses, releasing his grip. Like, this guy learned nothing. He had already blamed someone once for someone else's death, and now he's doing the same thing. Dorothy collapsed on the floor, gasping for air, staring at Julian in terror. Pack up your things and never appear before me again. Otherwise, I can't guarantee you what I might do. Dorothy dared not say another word. She scrambled to her feet and staggered out of the villa, leaving only Julian's heavy breathing and suppressed sobs. He walked to Beatrice's memorial photo, lay down slowly, held the photo in his arms, and pressed his forehead against the frame. Bea, I drove her away, but I know I can't make this up for the harm I've done to you. He drank dozens of bottles a day, his memories of sobriety growing shorter. Most of his time spent repeating apologies in a drunken haze. 3 or 4 days passed without him eating a single bite. His face was as pale as paper, his eye sockets sunken, and he had grown alarmingly thin. That evening, as he was tipping a bottle to his lips, he suddenly coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood. His vision went black. The bottle crashed onto the floor, and he collapsed heavily. When he woke again, he was lying in a hospital bed, an IV line inserted into his wrist. You're awake? A nurse walked in, recording data. You have gastric bleeding caused by alcohol poisoning. If you'd been brought in any later, it would have been dangerous. Julian said nothing, only stared at the ceiling. Not long after, painful groans came from the next bed. A frail old man clutched his stomach, his face twisted in agony. The nurse hurried over with a treatment cart, then came out carrying a basin filled with blood-stained vomit. It's an old problem, mid-stage stomach cancer. He suffers like this every day. The pain keeps you up all night, you can't eat, you keep vomiting blood, and you waste away until you're nothing but skin and bones. Julian's face turned ashen, and in an instant, Beatrice's image flashed before his eyes. Her pale face, trembling hands, an evasive look in her eyes when she secretly spat blood. So back then, she endured this kind of pain every single day. Unable to bear the guilt any longer, he pulled out the IV needle from his hand and staggered out of the hospital room. Back at the villa, he found his computer. He photographed Beatrice's diary, organized the restored surveillance footage, and wrote a long letter of apology. In it, he detailed how he had favored Dorothy back then, how he had wronged Beatrice, how he stood by as she was being bullied, and every detail of Dorothy's framing and slander. Then he posted everything online. Wow, this is like the most unrealistic part in this story, I think. The post quickly went viral, and the comment section exploded. So it was Dorothy who framed her back then. Julian was so blind. Beatrice's life was so tragic. She had cancer and was still bullied by so many people. Everyone who bullied Beatrice, including Dorothy, should pay the price. Following the clues, netizens dug up classmates who had bullied Beatrice and Dorothy's personal information. They had even found Dorothy's current address. Dorothy's social media accounts were bombarded until she deleted them. People pointed at her in the street, and some even threw garbage at her doorstep. Those classmates who had bullied Beatrice were also doxxed by netizens, lost their jobs, and could no longer live in peace. Julian's reputation plummeted even further. His company's stock price crashed, business partners terminated contracts, and he disappeared from financial magazines. I feel like the thing is a bit unproportionate, no? Like, the classmates and Dorothy get, like, doxxed, get rubbish thrown at them, they get, like, unemployed, and Julian just gets disappeared from financial magazines. He didn't care about any of that. He just sat in front of his computer every day, feeling a little better as he watched netizens stand up for Beatrice. A few days later, a new post appeared online. The poster wrote, 10 years ago, an aunt moved near my home. She looked a lot like the woman at the center of this incident, and she was in poor health, taking medicine every day. One time, a middle-aged man chased after her and argued with her. That's when I overheard that she was a single mother with late-stage hereditary stomach cancer, trying to borrow money from neighbors for treatment. But the neighbor's husband took advantage of the situation and forced himself on her. Later, the neighbor's wife found out, and that woman jumped off the building. The aunt felt guilty and didn't want to burden her daughter, so she left. But that man wouldn't let it go. After she refused him, he kept cursing her. Not long after, the aunt died of stomach cancer. So here, the actual truth that this story is trying to say is that Julian's father forced himself on Beatrice's mother And then Julian's mother misunderstood the situation and offed herself on that day. And then Beatrice's mother leaves Beatrice, making her think that she was eloping with Julian's father. And Julian also thinks the same thing. But somehow, this random-ass neighbor who posted this post online managed to know what happened to everyone in the story. I also want to say this sentence makes a lot of sense. Beatrice's mom left because she doesn't want to burden her daughter. Like, it seems dumb, but just think of how Beatrice left Julian the same way. Julian also didn't know that Beatrice died, so I guess it would make sense that he didn't look into his own, dad leaving. When Julian saw the post, he felt as if all the blood in his body had frozen. Wasn't that man from the neighbor's house his father? That aunt was Beatrice's mother. So it turned out what happened back then was never Beatrice's mother's fault. It was his father who took advantage of her vulnerability and forced Beatrice's mother. It was his father who destroyed 2 families. And he, out of cowardice and unable to face his father's crime, had poured all his hatred onto Beatrice. He made the true victim bear all the pain. Dad, Beatrice. Julian collapsed to the ground. He was so terribly wrong. Wrong beyond redemption. He bought a bouquet of white chrysanthemums and, following the address his classmates had given him years ago, found Beatrice's grave. There was no photo on the tombstone. Its simplicity was heartbreaking. Julian knelt before the tombstone, placed the white chrysanthemums in front of it, and pressed his forehead against the cold stone. Bea, I'm sorry. I only just learned the truth. It was my father's fault. Well, it doesn't matter that it's Julian's father's fault or Beatrice's mother's fault. He shouldn't have bullied Bea either way. He knelt before the tombstone for 5 whole days, eating and drinking. Eating and drinking? Nothing. Oh, sorry. Eating and drinking nothing during the day. So haven't ate for 1 to 2 weeks. How is he still alive? On the 6th night, how do you even pronounce this word? On the 6th night, he drifted into a deep sleep in a haze. When he opened his eyes again, the familiar sound of the school bell rang in his ears, and before him was the classroom of Lowell High School. Sunlight streamed through the windows onto the desks. Classmates were noisy and boisterous. Everything was exactly as it had been 10 years ago. Beatrice, clean the blackboard! A boy in the front row deliberately tossed the blackboard eraser at Beatrice's feet. Exactly! Her mom did that kind of thing. So what's wrong with making her do chores? Julian sprang to his feet, rushed over, took the eraser from Beatrice's hand, and turned to the jeering classmates. This has nothing to do with Beatrice. It was our parents who did wrong. Why should she have to bear it? If any one of you dare bully her again, just try it. The classroom fell silent in an instant. Everyone was stunned. Even Beatrice looked up at him. A surge of wild joy rose in Julian's heart. He finally had the chance to make things right. He gazed eagerly at Beatrice, but Beatrice only glanced at him indifferently, her face expressionless. She didn't say a word and walked straight out of the classroom. Julian's heart instantly turned cold, yet he didn't realize this was a dream. All he could think was that he couldn't miss this chance again, so he hurried after her. In the days that followed, Julian devoted all his attention to Beatrice. Every morning, he waited for her downstairs ahead of time, his backpack filled with her favorite sweet rolls and hot milk. At noon, he rushed to the cafeteria before everyone else, bringing her favorite sweet and sour ribs and vegetables to her table. After school, he followed closely behind her, driving away any boys who tried to bother her, escorting her all the way to her doorstep. Even when Dorothy tried to talk to him, he just waved her off coldly. Don't bother me. Julian, what's wrong with you? Weren't we doing fine? We were never fine. Julian turned away mercilessly and quickly caught up with Beatrice ahead, softening his tone. Bea, it's going to rain tomorrow. I brought you an umbrella. Beatrice didn't look back or take the umbrella. She just kept walking forward, her steps never faltering. Beatrice remained cold and distant, never looking at him, never speaking to him, not even touching anything he handed her. Until that afternoon, Julian stopped Beatrice under the plane tree behind the school building, his voice pleading, eyes red. Bea, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. When my parents died back then, I couldn't accept reality, so I took it all out on you and treated you cruelly. I know I was wrong now. Can you forgive me? Beatrice finally stopped and slowly turned around. She looked at Julian and suddenly pulled out a mocking smile. Forgive you? Julian, don't you think it's too late? Too late? Julian's heart sank abruptly, trembling as he asked, What do you mean? Bea, I've changed now. I'll protect you well. Can't we be like before? Like before? When you pushed me down the stairs, when you watched others lock me in the equipment room and pour cold water on me, what were you thinking? When you sent me to the detention center, making me vomit blood and faint from pain, why didn't you think about being like before? Every word was like a knife, stabbing deep into Julian's heart. He staggered back a step, staring at Beatrice in shock. You remember everything? You came back to life too? Beatrice said nothing, a trace of mockery in her expression. I was wrong. Bea, I didn't mean to. Julian's tears streamed down uncontrollably as he tried to grab Beatrice's hand, but she avoided him. I was so stupid back then, blinded by hatred. Later I learned the truth. I knew you were innocent. I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance, okay? Beatrice looked at his tearful face, her eyes utterly calm, only a cold stillness within. Julian, everything I was supposed to endure, I have endured. Everything I was supposed to repay, I have repaid. Your apology, your regret, mean nothing to me anymore. She took a step back, widening the distance, her tone light but carrying an unshakable resolve. I've already died once. Now I'm going to start a new life that belongs to me. With that, she turned and walked toward the distant school building, her back straight, without a trace of hesitation. Julian stood frozen in place, his vision blurred by tears, the pain in his chest more intense than before. In the days that followed, he continued to trail behind Beatrice, but no longer dared to approach her recklessly. He watched Beatrice arrive early every morning for self-study, saw her bent over her desk solving problems between classes, her entire focus devoted to her studies. Whenever a boy tried to slip a love letter into a desk drawer while she was away, Julian would be the first to take it out and throw it into the trash. When girls deliberately hid her textbooks, Julian would quietly find them and return them to a desk. Even when Dorothy, unwilling to give up, tried to cause trouble for Beatrice, Julian coldly blocked her way. Julian, what's wrong with you? Didn't you used to hate her the most? I was blind before. Now, I won't let anyone bully her again. Seeing his resolute expression, Dorothy finally ran off with tears in her eyes and never sought him out again. In this way, Julian silently protected Beatrice, watching her grades steadily improve as she climbed up from the middle of the class to the top ranks of the grade. The SAT arrived as scheduled. Julian stood outside the test center, watching Beatrice walk into the exam hall with her backpack, her posture upright and her eyes full of determination. It wasn't until Beatrice walked out of the exam room with a relaxed smile on her face that he finally felt a bit relieved. On the day the results were released, Beatrice was admitted to the prestigious university they had once promised each other. In the years that followed, Julian was like a shadow, silently following behind Beatrice. He knew she had joined the literature club at university and published many articles. He knew she met a gentle boy at the library, knew she turned down other suitors, and only grew close to that boy. Once, at a cafe near the university, he saw Beatrice sitting across from that boy. That boy handed her a piece of cake, and she smiled and said, "Thank you," her eyes brimming with joy. Julian felt as if his heart had been pricked by countless needles, a dense pain spreading through him. Yet, there was also a trace of comfort. She had finally found a peaceful and happy life, free from scheming, free from harm, filled only with simple beauty. He knew he owed Beatrice too much. So much that he could never repay her in this lifetime. He didn't dare get close. He could only watch from afar. He watched her graduate smoothly, watched her and the boy look for jobs together. On their graduation anniversary, that boy knelt with a ring under the plane trees on campus and proposed to her. Beatrice hesitated for a few seconds, then smiled and nodded, saying, "I do." Those 3 words were like 3 knives. How is that 3 words? That's 2. If there's one thing this author needs to improve on, it's counting. Like, this author does not know how to count. Those 3 words were like 3 knives, stabbing deep into Julian's heart. He wanted to rush forward, to tell Beatrice he still loved her, to beg for another chance. But reason told him he could not. He could not disturb her happiness again, could not destroy the new life she had finally gained. At this moment, the scene before his eyes suddenly twisted. Beatrice's smile, the boy's figure, the plane trees on campus, all scattered. He jerked himself awake and found himself still lying on the villa's sofa. In his arms was Beatrice's memorial photo, empty wine bottles scattered on the floor, and daylight already breaking outside the window. So it had all been a dream. But the dream felt too real. Beatrice's smile, the tone of her voice, even the scent of her hair, all matched his memories exactly. Julian clutched his chest, his heart still throbbing with pain. Tears still clung to his face, the cold sensation reminding him that everything just now was not an illusion. He suddenly realized that perhaps it was not an ordinary dream. It was Beatrice's new life in another world. In that world, there was no parental scandals, no harm from him, and no torment from cancer. She was admitted to a dream university, met someone who loved her, and lived the happy life she was meant to have. But in this world, he had lost her forever. He had destroyed her youth, her dreams, and her hope to keep living. It took him 10 years to understand the truth, and he could only repay it with endless regret. But he could never again see the girl in the white dress, smiling and calling him Julian. Julian picked up Beatrice's memorial photo, his fingertips gently brushing over her face in the picture. Sunlight spilled over him, but it could not warm his frozen heart. He knew that from then on, he would live with a guilt towards Beatrice alone. He would guard her memorial photo and diary, and see for her the world she never got to truly experience. He would spend the rest of his life repenting, commemorating the girl who would forever remain 18, the girl he loved most. But this repentance and remembrance would never have the chance to reach her again. The end. Like, do you see this author cooking? I like that this story was like kind of realistic, even though it still did like the revenge thing to kind of hook you to the story, but it didn't like put Beatrice out as a ghost or something and like make her push Julian down the stairs, you feel me? Like that would be fire as well, but the closure for this story was done like really, really, really well. Like he really closed every single one of the problems that he put out. The act of not saving Beatrice when the basketball pole fell, it was covered by Julian getting crushed by like the school cabinet or something. And then Beatrice's cancer, it was covered by Julian going to the hospital and watching someone else with the same kind of cancer. And then the truth about the cheating and the affair, it was also covered later. I like how Julian also didn't get off the hook like really easy because he has to suffer the emotional consequences of his own actions. So yeah, I just think this story is like really well written and really well wrapped up in a sense. When I finished reading this story, I wasn't really satisfied. I was thinking like, who can I share this to, right? So I'm like, oh, why not make a YouTube video about it? If you enjoyed my reading and review of this story, I guess like and subscribe. This was really like an impromptu video I didn't even plan to make until I read this story. So yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.